A Mother's Work is Never Done by Dubs Rewatcher. Derpy Hoove's ears folded back against her head as the creak of the house's front door erupted through them. Her wings felt like lead, hanging weakly against her sides. For the first time in ages, she actually had to climb the stairs in her house, rather than simply flying up them. Her entire body screamed for rest. It was all she could do to make it to her bedroom, where she flopped down on the bed unceremoniously, not even bothering to remove her saddlebags. From the front of her skull, the gray mare could feel the slight tingle that signified one of her eyes was acting up. She was too tired to care. She closed her eyes, trusting that it would work itself out as she slept. The soft ticking of her alarm clock was the only sound in the room, its regular tick that beat through Derpy like a metronome, slowly calming her mind, and bringing her closer and closer to sleep.
Mommy?
Derpy's golden eye shot open, only to come in contact with a smaller, matching set.
Yes, Muffin?
Dinky grinned at her mother.
Mommy!
She chirped, hopping in place.
You're home! Yay! Let's play!
She grabbed one of her mother's limp wings and pulled, causing the Pegasus to wince.
Come on! I already got the board and everything. Muffin, please,
Derpy murmured, taking back her wing.
You know I love playing with you more than anything, but Mommy is very, very, very tired, and she needs some sleepy time. Is that all right?
The lavender unicorn blinked, her mouth slightly ajar.
Why? Well, I had a very long day. Why? It was very windy, and there was a dog, and it was just very difficult for me to deliver the mail today, okay? Why?
Derpy lifted herself up, groaning at the pricks of pain going off in her back. She knew that once Dinky started asking why, there would be no end to the debate. She put on a smile as she jumped off the bed, landing right next to her daughter.
All right, Dinky, what do you want to play?
Derpy asked, kneeling to match her daughter's height.
Was it a board game? Yes!
Dinky cheered, giggling and trembling with excitement. She grabbed her mother's leg and pulled her out of the room.
Let's go, go, go!
Transition. Derpy let the dice roll off of her wing and onto the wooden coffee table. They landed noisily, clattering across the surface of the table until it landed neatly in the center of the oligopoly board.
2 5s,
the Pegasus announced as she grabbed her metal shoe.
200 bits, please, Miss Banker.
Dinky stared indignantly at her mother. Despite the fact that the filly could just barely do most of the basic mathematical equations, she always insisted on being Banker, every game they played.
Are you sure?
She asked.
Are you sure you get 200 bits? Yep, look,
she explained, pointing at the board. Her shoe was 2 paces past the starting point.
I just passed go. That's 200 bits, remember?
Dinky snorted before she began to collect the miniature paper bills from the game box. Derpy held back a sigh. She knew exactly what was going to happen. It always did. Pleasing a filly like Dinky was a practiced art. When she had first found out that she was pregnant, Derpy wasn't sure it would even work out. How could a single mother cursed with broken eyes ever hope to provide a future for her child? No one was going to help her, certainly. Not after he had left. Part of her had even considered giving the filly up. But then she'd actually been born, and something happened. As Derpy had looked down at the little bundle of lavender fur in her arms, her tiny nub of a horn just barely poking out from behind a stalk of straw-colored hair, something changed in the Pegasus. She had brought this filly into the world. Her! After that moment, she would never think of giving up Dinky ever again. When she heard the child laugh, saw her smile, every problem seemed to melt away. No matter how hard it got, no matter how stubborn Dinky could get, it was worth it. Not bothering to try using her young, untrained magic, Dinky picked up the 2 dice, balancing them on her hooves. Her brow furrowed. She tossed them onto the table.
Come on, come on, come on,
she begged some unforeseen force. The dice began to slow. It looked like they were going to land on their 5s, just like her mom's roll. If that happened, not only would she be in the lead, she would have even more money. Her tongue stuck out the side of her mouth, and a small squeak escaped as well. They both stopped on their 5 side. Dinky threw her hooves in the air.
I got it!
As if the god of board games had just set out to spite her, both die rolled once more, just to land on their 1 sides. Dinky hit her hooves on the board, sending a couple of blue plastic houses flying.
Oh, come on! That's not fair!
She grabbed the dice away from her mother, holding them close.
I want to go again! Dinky, what do we say when we get mad at board games?
Derpy asked, a small smile betraying her solemn tone. The filly took a deep breath.
It's just a game,
she droned. The gray mare gathered the scattered houses off the floor.
That's right. Games aren't about winning or losing. They're about having fun.
Dinky crossed her forelegs and looked away.
But I'm not having fun. What was that? Nothing, Mommy. Okay.
With a satisfied smile, Derpy flipped the dice off her wing and they landed on the table once again. It came up as an 11, 5, and 6. Before she could announce it to Dinky, the protest had already started.
No! That's not fair, she insisted. You cheated! Muffin, I want to win, Dinky said, hitting her hooves on the table. You're just winning 'cause you're bigger than me. It's not fair!
With a pout on her face, she snatched the dice away from Derpy.
You don't get to go. It's my turn again.
Derpy sighed. This happened nearly every time they played the game together. She prayed for the day when her daughter would finally be old enough to play without having a handicap. Even though she knew it probably wasn't a good idea to let Dinky have her way, she really wasn't in the mood to deal with a crying foal.
Okay, you can go again.
Dinky's face lit up, her previous frustrations forgotten.
Yay!
Transition.
Mommy, I'm hungry. I know, Dinky, I know,
Derpy said for the third time as she stirred the alfalfa rapidly. The dews tended to stay on their rather set schedule most nights, and, like every night, immediately after their fourth board game, Dinky would start complaining that she was hungry. She would then proceed to remind her mother of that fact every 3 minutes or so.
Mommy, dinner's done,
Derpy announced. Carefully, as not to burn herself, Derpy grabbed a hold of the strainer in one wing and held it over the kitchen sink. She bit down on the handle of the cooking pot and poured its contents into the strainer. The boiling water rushed out, leaving only a small clump of soft plants. Derpy allowed herself a small smile. Boiled alfalfa was one of Dinky's favorite foods. If anything would calm her down, this was it. Humming quietly, she gathered the plants onto Dinky's favorite plate. It was the shape of a muffin, and made her way to the kitchen table. With a flourish, the food landed right in front of Dinky, its sweet scent drifting upwards into the foal's nostrils. Derpy watched patiently, waiting for Dinky to start eating. But instead of eating, Dinky just stared at the alfalfa for a moment. Suddenly, her nose wrinkled up, and she pushed the plate away.
I don't want this.
Derpy's face fell.
What? Why not, Muffin? I hate alfalfa, Dinky declared, crossing her legs and pouting. What?
Derpy's eye twitched.
But we...
She searched for the right words to describe her confusion. Her mind raced to find an answer, but in the end, she simply resorted to covering her face with hooves and grumbling. With bloodshot eyes, she stared at Dinky. Fine then. What do you want? Dinky smiled.
Hey, fries!
Derpy put a hoof on the plate.
Last chance. You're sure you don't want this? No! And you're sure that you're going to eat the hay fries if I make them for you? Yep.
Holding back a groan, Derpy grabbed the plate of alfalfa. She moved it over to the fridge. No use putting good food to waste. Next, she opened up the freezer, where a large bag of hay sat. She grabbed it out of the freezer with her mouth, ignoring the pain of the cold against her face.
Mommy!
Derpy nearly dropped the bag when she heard her daughter squeal. She turned.
What is it now, Muffin?
She said through the plastic. Dinky glanced at the Pegasus, her golden eyes wide and innocent.
I'm hungry.
Derpy held back a scream. What do I look like, an earth pony?
No, you look more like a mud pony to me.
Dinky giggled at the show's joke, her stomach full of hay fries. The filly rested comfortably on the red couch in the living room with her head resting on a small throw pillow. Despite the late hour, the TV blared on, filling the room with rapidly flashing multicolored light. A small yawn escaped the filly's lips every few minutes. She snuggled deeper into her pillow. It was at that moment that Derpy, wings limp and eyes heavy, stepped into the room.
Time for bed, little Muffin.
The filly didn't answer, instead opting to laugh at another quick joke. Her glazed-over eyes didn't even seem to acknowledge that there was another pony in the room. At least, not until the Pegasus trotted up to the TV and turned it off.
Hey!
Dinky squeaked, leaping onto all fours.
I was watching that! I said it's time for bed, Dinky, Derpy repeated, walking up to the couch. Little fillies need their sleep. Dinky sneered. But I was watching that! Yes, I know, but...
Not waiting for an answer, Dinky hopped off the couch and scrambled to the TV. She quickly hit the power button, fell back onto her rump, and began watching again. Derpy grit her teeth. Enough was enough. She trotted to the TV and turned it.
Dinky, I said that it's time for bed. Now let's go.
The filly got up on her hind legs and attempted to push Derpy out of the way so she could get to the power button again.
No! Stop it! I don't want to go to bed. I'm not even tired. Look, Dinky,
Derpy began frowning.
I've done what you wanted all night. Now it's time for bed.
She grabbed at Dinky's hoof.
And besides, I can tell that you're absolutely exhausted.
Dinky tried to pull away.
Stop! You're hurting me!
She blubbered, flailing wildly.
I don't want to go. You can't make me.
Seeing that she was losing the battle, Dinky began to wail loudly, tears streaming down her face. Derpy winced at the foal screaming. She had really been hoping that it wouldn't have come down to her crying, but if that's what it was going to take, then so be it. When she winced, her group loosened just the slightest bit, leaving ample opportunity for Dinky to escape. The foal now rolled around on the floor, sobbing her eyes out. Her tiny little hooves beat the hardwood floor relentlessly, as if pain could somehow help her.
Dinky, please!
Derpy pleaded, her tone growing more and more desperate the louder the child became. No matter what she said, Dinky just wouldn't stop. After a moment, she gave up on words and simply picked the flailing foal up and began to drag her to her bedroom. She had a hard time avoiding the kicks and swings, and a few managed to make contact, but most missed her. Her thoughts raced, but one stood above all else. Make it stop. By the time they actually got into the bedroom, Dinky's face had gone almost pure red and her fur was matted with tears. Not caring for finesse, Derpy hoisted her daughter into the bed and pulled her under the blanket. Immediately, Dinky attempted to escape, pushing her covers away and scrambling to the bed's edge. That was it. She had had enough.
Dinky!
Derpy screamed, freezing the filly in place.
That is enough!
Her eyes were on fire as she grabbed Dinky and crammed her back into the blanket, not even hesitating as the filly squeaked out in pain. By now, Dinky was shaking. She stared up at her mother, who was glaring at her like never before.
Mommy?
She asked hesitantly as tears filled her eyes. It was all Derpy could do to not simply smack her daughter across the face.
You are going to bed right now, and that is final.
Derpy cantered over to the door, her hooves stamping with every step. She shot her daughter one more threatening glance before switching off the light, stepping out, and slamming the door. She stood staring at the door for a few seconds. Her mind was a swarm of frenzied emotions. She could only imagine how crazy her eyes must have been. Slowly, but steadily, she walked into her own bedroom, where she closed the door behind her, and simply slid to the floor.
Oh, Celestial, what did I just do?
She trembled as the first waves of shock, sadness, and depression washed over her, replacing any anger she had left. She had never yelled at Dinky like that. Sure, she would scold her every once in a while, but not like that. The thoughts she had while she was yelling at her made her cringe just remembering them. She wanted to hit Dinky. What kind of mother was she? She choked out a small sob.
Things were much easier when Dusty was around.
Suddenly, a small knock came from the door, causing Derpy to jump. The Pegasus wiped her eyes before opening up. Sitting solemnly in front of the door was Dinky. Her face was streaked with tears, and her normally brushed hair was messy and wild.
Mommy?
She murmured, shaking. There was a deep silence, only broken by a filly's deep breathing.
I'm sorry. I didn't know you were mad. I was being mean to you all night. I didn't want to be mean.
Derpy held back tears of her own.
Oh, Muffin.
Dinky leaped forward, grabbing her mother in a tight hug. She was now crying openly, but these weren't the indignant tears from before that had gotten Derpy so frustrated. These were real tears of sadness and regret. The kind of tears only a guilty filly can make.
Mommy?
Dinky asked, her face buried in Derpy's fur.
Yes. Do you still love me?
Derpy gasped before kneeling down and looking her daughter in the eye.
Of course I do. Dinky, you're my littlest muffin. You're the greatest thing to ever happen to me. I love you more than you can ever imagine, and I always will, no matter what.
She pulled Dinky close.
But I'm the one who should be saying sorry. I didn't mean to yell at you and scare you like that, Dinky. I'm sorry.
Dinky looked up and smiled.
It's okay.
The two shared a warm hug, which lasted for well over a minute. Once they were done, Derpy grinned and said,
Come on. Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Yes!
Dinky chirped, hopping in place.
Let's go!
Smiling, the two walked slowly out of the room, pressed up against one another, sharing in each other's warmth.
Mommy? Yes, Muffin? You're the best mommy ever.
Derpy's eyes twinkled.
I do my best.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Goodbye.